Hello everybody, and welcome to my usual kind of annual roundup of the year and what I think is going to be happening in the coaching industry, what is going to be impacting the coaching industry within the next year. So I've seen quite a few comments online, so I'm hoping that I'm going to have loads of company. If you are watching this live, won't you just put a hashtag live into the comments? Let me know where you're watching from, and so that I can see who's online with me. It's always good to see company. But let me not delay any further. Let's have a look at what I think, and this is my opinion, so I want to be quite clear about that. These are the things that I think are going to impact the coaching profession as a whole within the next year. And this is also my attempt on an annual basis to help you crash-proof, bulletproof and future-proof your coaching practice. Sharon, lovely to see you on live, and I can see Arena's here. Lovely, guys. Thanks for joining me. So before I go any further, you can hear that I've got a bit of a frog in my throat. I am busy recovering from a cold. It's not COVID, I've been tested, but I just want to excuse myself in advance if I do end up going into a coughing fit, but I do have some tools right here next to me on the desk to try and help me get through that. So hopefully I'm going to stay away from things that are really, really obvious, and I want to try and focus on useful and practical trends that you need to prepare for and give you some tips on how to implement them into your coaching practice. As I said, to future-proof it, to crash-proof it, and to bulletproof it. So the coaching industry, I don't think I need to, this is stating the obvious, but it continues to explode. And this year, I wanted to ask myself, why? Why is it exploding? So, as I said last year, similarly, people are losing their jobs because of COVID. People are more and more being displaced by technology, and I am going to go into that in quite a lot more detail later. But COVID is definitely, I think, one of the biggest driving forces behind the explosion of the coaching industry. And some of the people who have lost their jobs may have received training in their former positions where they were taught to use a coaching approach in the course of doing their jobs. So they're coming out of the job markets, out of the formal employed markets, and they may already actually have coach qualifications similar to what many of us hold, and so are in just as good a position to call themselves a coach. And plus, they've probably had many, many hours of experience within the corporate environment already coaching. So they've started to build up their coaching hours. So they're coming out with a high level of credibility. I think COVID has also highlighted a need and a yearning amongst people in general to look at their lives and to decide what they're going to do or change in order to live more purposeful, meaningful, and impactful lives. I think people have a greater sense of their own mortality. Society has been, rocked on its feet. And I think that in general, people they're more conscious of leaving a legacy and of giving back. Arena, in my experience, not only the job losses, but people don't want to go back to the office after working from home. Now, that's a very interesting point, and thank you for raising that. That's extremely interesting. Yeah, it's true. Working from home allows people to have so much more contact with their families. They've been able to kind of re-engage with, what their real priorities are in life, and also possibly to see an alternative to getting in their car and going to work every day, that there is another way, viable and feasible way of making a living, of putting bread on the table without having to do that daily commute. So yeah, I think people do want to leave a legacy. People do want to give back, and people possibly want to spend more of their time and energy helping other people. Now, December last year, I had a look at LinkedIn, and I did a couple of searches on LinkedIn, and I searched under the term coach, and the results came back where 1.6 million people on LinkedIn are describing themselves as a coach. 12 months later, under that same search term, coach, 6.6 million people are now using that term in terms of how they are describing themselves on LinkedIn. And I had a quick maths lesson from my husband last night to work out what the percentage growth is and what kind of a percentage that represents. And according to my calculations, it's a 314% increase in growth in people on LinkedIn alone calling themselves coaches. Now, we do need to, I do need to qualify that. The term coach is a broad term, and it could include people who are fitness coaches. They might call themselves wellness coaches, financial coaches. So it might not be pure coaches in terms of what we all experience as people, what we would describe as coaches. I can see that Tessa and Joe have hopped on. It's awesome to see you. Tessa's going to be hopping off a little bit early, so I'll try and squeeze in as much as I possibly can before you have to go, Tessa. But it's lovely to see both of you, and it's been awesome just catching up with you, over the last day or so via Messenger. Just to break it down a little bit more, I did then look at Coach South Africa, put that in as a search term, and there were over 27,000 people in December 2020 describing themselves as Coach South Africa, coaches in South Africa. This year, we've got 107, so that's from 27,000 to 107,000. So I didn't do the calculations, but again, I think that's at least a 400% increase. If we look at executive coach, so this is global, last year we had 109,000 people describing themselves as an executive coach. This year, it's 1.3 million. And where we are really seeing this extraordinary explosion in growth is I put in the term business coach. Last year, 137,000 people using the term business coach to describe them. I use the term business coach to describe myself. This year, so from 137,000, we've now gone to 3.18 million. My head can't even do those figures, but I think my head can't even do those figures in the explosion in growth in the category business coach. More than ever, I'm preaching to the converted, but more than ever, we have to be clear and explicit about what we do and the results that we offer. And I'm going to again go into that a little bit more. Yeah, Arena, I can see your responses to these figures. It's frightening when we actually look at these figures and we raise our awareness of how competitive and increasingly saturated this industry is. It continues to be one of the fastest growing professions in the world. So what has COVID done? Well, it's certainly pushed us right into the middle of the fourth industrial revolution and has us now scratching at the start of the fifth industrial revolution. So let me quickly go into what the fourth industrial revolution means. So I actually took a quote from an article on the internet, so I'm going to quote it completely. It says, the fourth industrial revolution is the ongoing automation of traditional manufacturing and industrial practices using modern smart technology. Large-scale machine-to-machine communication and the Internet of Things are integrated for increasing automation, improved communication and self-monitoring, and production of smart machines that can analyze and diagnose issues without the need for human intervention. So one of the big things around the fourth industrial revolution is a trend to eliminate the human component, a trend to kind of almost dehumanize the working environment. COVID has created a greater adoption of the online space, and there was research that showed that up to 80% of consumers now see the world as all digital. And what this has created with people becoming more and more digitized and online, working from home, working virtually, hybrid workspaces, we've created an environment where there is a buyer expectation or a population expectation for immediacy and instant gratification. So you have a problem, you want to find an immediate solution. And this, again, goes back to what I was saying just now about the opportunity, but also the desperate need for coaches like us to get more and more explicit about the work that we do, our area of speciality, and our niche. We have to make sure that we cut through that clutter and that we really do stand out in the marketplace. We've got to be able to clearly talk about and demonstrate what results we offer and what our clients will achieve as a result of working with us. So let's look at, I'm going to be a little bit of a devil's advocate now, okay? Let's look at some of the things that coaching delivers, okay? Coaching helps us cope better. It helps us regulate ourselves and our responses. It helps us raise our performance, achieve goals, improve our work-life balance, develop self-awareness. It helps us increase our confidence, develop better interpersonal relationships and interpersonal skills, and it helps us adapt to change more effectively. So now, I'm going to ask myself, do I want to achieve my goals? Well, of course. Do I need a coach for that? No, I don't think so. I think I'm managing really, really well with the tools that I've got, like my best self journals. So let me ask myself another question. Do I want to increase my self-awareness? Yeah, maybe, but it's not a pressing need. Like, I can't really see how working on my self-awareness is going to, help me earn more income or, bring in more clients. So what about self? Do I want to improve my relationships? Well, I don't really feel like I'm having much of a problem in that area. Like, most of my relationships, personal and professional, in my opinion, are quite good. So I wouldn't go to a coach to, specifically for that. Do you see what trend I'm trying to demonstrate here? These are non-specifics. We need to be able to link the impact that coaching has in these various areas to actual tangible results. So let me give you another example. So I'm quite keen to get back into swimming. Swimming's a sport that I've always enjoyed, and I haven't swum for various reasons, for any length or endurance for the last 2 years. And I'm quite keen to work my way back up to my fitness levels to swim the mid-mile mile. So I've got a very specific goal in mind, a very specific end in mind. So my problem is that if I want to get to that stage of swimming the mid-mile mile, I need to put in the time, I need to put in the distance, and I need to work on my technique to get me ready again for open water swimming. What's the solution? I need to find myself a coach, a swim coach. That's easy. I need to find someone who is going to help me achieve the goals that I want to achieve and eliminate the problems that I have. So the problems are my lack of fitness, my lack of endurance, stroke correction possibly. Much easier for me to make that decision than to make the decision about raising my self-awareness and improving my interpersonal relationships. I'm not trying to mock anything here, but I'm trying to demonstrate a point, how important it is to link what we do to results and outcomes, and how much easier it then is for our clients to make the decision to work with us. And our problems as coaches is that we don't position ourselves as being clear solutions to specific problems. And I don't want to hear you say, but how can I? Because, as coaches, we deal with whatever the client presents. I'm going to, again, tackle that with a little bit of, hopefully, like, leave you smiling at the end, but I'm going to be a little bit cheeky about that. Arena, I admire you for taking on open water swimming. I must say, a friend of mine who does a lot of open water swimming, she said that the first time, she wrote an article online, and she said the first time that she did an open water swim, and she didn't have the safety net of the line to follow in the swimming pool, and knowing that every 25 or 50 meters there was going to be an edge of the swimming pool to hang on to and get her breath. And also when you do the open water swims, you can't actually see what's underneath you. That's the water's so muddy and churned up. So it is a big confidence thing. But you've just got to put one arm in front of the other and keep your eye on the horizon, and you eventually get to the end. But thanks for saying that. I'm quite looking forward to it. So again, I want to ask you, put yourself into your potential client's shoes and listen to yourself saying to a client, potential client, that you specialize as a coach. That's your area of specialization. That's your area of expertise. But and you can coach anything that your client wants to put on the agenda or bring into the coaching session. Now, I understand that this is definitely a Rogerian psychological perspective, that most of us, when we did our coach training, most of us were trained from this kind of perspective, that we don't determine the agenda, that it's what the client, brings that we deal with at any one time that's in the room. But our world has changed. It really has changed, and we need to change and adapt with it. And we know that with this high level of uncertainty, volatility, just the general uncertainty that we and our clients are dealing with, we want answers, we want solutions, we want to know that if I do A, B, and C, I'm going to achieve this particular outcome. And we can still put the client at the center of the coaching conversation. We can still let the client set the agenda, but it doesn't mean that we can't position ourselves as specialists working in a particular area, so that becomes the focus of the coaching intervention and conversation. It's an area that we create results. So linking the problem or the goal to achieving some kind of a solution in our coaching intervention. And we need to make sure that we're aligning ourselves with the solutions that our clients want to achieve. Remember what I said before, that there's a greater expectation because we're living in this virtual world. There's a greater and greater expectation for immediate gratification and for immediacy and instant gratification. The ICF continues to emphasize, again, they've put out another article and some research, that coaches specializing in niche or specialist areas will see more employment opportunities than coaches who don't specialize. Niche reinforces our value, our brand value, our brilliance as individuals, and also our uniqueness. It sets us apart in the marketplace. So moving on from that, I want to kind of pick back up on the theme of the fourth industrial revolution, the Internet of Things. And we are seeing more and more artificial intelligence apps being developed for the coaching industry. In particular, very proudly South African, Dr. Nikki Terra-Blanche at Stellenbosch, the University of Stellenbosch's Business School, he's developed an app called Coach Vici, VICI. So it's named after Veni Vidi Vici. I came, I saw, I conquered. So it's Coach Conquer. And we've also, it hasn't yet been launched to the public. They're busy working on a public version. but they, initially were doing a lot of validation and looking at research around how people who were using this coaching app, how they were faring in various different areas. There's a Hello Coach app for employee wellness. We're seeing lots of online artificial intelligence medical coaching apps where you can put in your symptoms, and like Hello Doctor. I think there's a thing called Hello Doctor. And the advantages of these artificial intelligence chatbots is their accessibility, the greater democratization of the coaching experience. And I think democratization of coaching is something that is close to a lot of our hearts, and it's why so many of us do free pro bono coaching, because we want to bring coaching to people who otherwise wouldn't be able to afford it or wouldn't be able to be exposed to it. Here's a tool that we can bring into our whole coaching mix that can support us in bringing coaching to those people who couldn't otherwise experience it. So I don't think artificial intelligence coaches are ever going to, are going to replace us in the very near future. And I think that with the increasingly virtual world that we live in, there's going to continue to be a greater and greater need for interpersonal contact and human relationships. But these are tools that we can use to really ramp up the power of the coaching that we do with our clients. And the research done on Coach Vicky or Vichy has showed that people who used it were more likely to achieve their goals. And of course, I think it was something in the region about 80% more likely to achieve their goals than the other group of people in the study who weren't using the coaching app. So that's really awesome for us to kind of take some of the pressure off us and puts it on the client, puts the accountability on the client to use these additional tools to help them, to keep them on track with achieving their goals. So really exciting prospects, I think, as far as those are concerned. And something else that I'm bubbling over with excitement about, and here I'm going to be talking about technology that's not quite as democratic, not quite as easily acceptable right now. It's more, it's expensive. It's something that is going to take a while before it becomes really useful. But before I go on to this possibility that I'm so excited about, Sharon, your comment is you tried a virtual coach recently and you found it a bit frustrating. The questions were very repetitive. Oh, man, I can't remember the name of this virtual coaching chatbot that I tried about 2 or 3 years ago, and it was literally it was quite ridiculous. I must actually do a video on it and post it in the group, because it was a joke. I mean, it just actually was useless. But I think, we are moving with time. Technology is getting better, and the whole thing about artificial intelligence is that it learns. So it learns and becomes more intelligent as it goes along. But now the thing that I'm super excited about is virtual reality and the possibilities that virtual reality offer us. Imagine this. Imagine working with a leadership or management team in a corporate environment, and you could bring in virtual reality to simulate all sorts of different scenarios, so that your team, you can coach them through how they would deal with different potential real life scenarios, so that you could also see how different people react, how the dynamics change within the team when there are stresses or tensions that people are being put under. And years ago, I used to work with some coaches where they would take the leadership and management teams that they were working with. There's a place in Simonstown, in Cape Town, that does simulations on board ships. So, you know, the disasters like hitting an iceberg or, you know, whatever else can go wrong with ships. And everybody was appointed a different role, you know, on board the ship. And they would go through this simulated crisis and to kind of debrief afterwards on how the different members of the team dealt with the crisis, how their kind of maybe shadow side came, you know, presented and showed, how they could have shown up differently. But I think that virtual reality is going to give an amazing opportunity for us in the future to bring this into the coaching space and to create simulations where we can really work with our clients under pressure in real type scenarios to help them deal with them better, more productively, more effectively. I think it's like really, really exciting. And it also will help us help our clients make better decisions, get better insights, you know, assess the risk or reward of planned strategies. Like, you know, you can simulate, if this is your planned strategy, what are the risks or rewards? What are the possibilities? Do you like build out whole scenarios? And pardon me, think about it. More and more of us, in fact, how many of you online right now are wearing a wearable technology, like a you know, a smartwatch, or you know, they're now garments that have got built-in smart technology that measure things like heart rate variability. What's the term for it? It's when we're under stress and our skin heats up, and you know, like various physiological signs that indicate that we are going through different experiences, and perhaps, you know, our stress levels have been raised. How many of us though are wearing simple modern technology, wearable technology, like smartwatches? I am, and I use my smartwatch, for example, when I'm swimming, to, you know, measure my stroke length, my stroke cadence, all of those kinds of things. Yes, Arena, you're wearing a smartwatch. Tessa, one of her clients was wearing one last week that tells her to breathe. I mean, there are even apps that my dietitian is, we're currently working on the speed at which I eat, and so I have to time my bites, and to make sure that it takes me 20 minutes to eat a meal. I mean, you know, 20 minutes to eat a meal is ridiculous. And so there's technology is coming in more and more to coach us in different things. Breathing effectively. There's some people who have alarms going off on their watches or phones on a regular basis to kind of bring them back to the present, to remind them to be more mindful. Tessa, one client today wasn't to switch off all the notification noises on her new smartwatch. It was very distracting. Been there, done that. I was doing a Facebook Live, and I always set an alarm to go off, you know, in the lead up, in the 15 minutes leading up to the live, just so that, you know, I can say to myself in the one day, instead of switching it off, I snoozed it. And this flipping alarm just kept on and on going throughout my video. It's so embarrassing, but I've turned it into one of those lessons of what not to do when you're doing live broadcasts. But very interestingly, I read recently that Liverpool Football Club, my husband is an absolute fan, they are now bringing neuroscientific equipment onto the sports field, because they're saying, if you look at athletes in general, these athletes are at their top possible performance levels. They're at their peak levels of fitness, endurance, everything that can be done physically, you know, has been done by these athletes to really increase their performance. And they're now bringing in the EEGs and the other monitors to look at how the athletes' brains are responding to certain situations out on the sports field, and how they can then, so where is the response happening in the brain, what part of the brain is that tied to, and how can they work with that to just give these athletes that little bit of an edge. And my question is, how soon are we going to start seeing this kind of technology spilling over into the high-level boardrooms, into high-level decision-making with corporate athletes? I think we're going to see it sooner than we think. We really are going to, with the fifth industrial revolution, these things are going to become more and more commonplace, more and more accepted in the workplace, and they're going to become tools that people like us are going to need to become familiar with, so that we can implement them with our clients to just really raise their levels, their performance, really kind of give them those extra cutting edges. And it will, if you think about what people are prepared to invest in coaching for top levels of leadership in corporates, to add something like this that will give those additional benefits, that additional edge, I don't think it's too much of a stretch for the corporates to kind of say, well, actually, it's probably a worthwhile investment, and let's go for it. And most importantly, what these things do is they will help us progress from data collection to analysis, and particularly predictive analysis. So we know when a certain situation presents itself in the corporate environment, we can analyze what has happened, and then we can predict how people are going to respond at any one time to that, and just to fine tune how they can respond differently, so that we don't get hijacked by things like our amygdala, and we can start to take more and more control over how we're responding to situations. So remember this, because I think this is going to be a flag around some of the capabilities that we are going to need to consider developing, and areas that we're going to have to look into moving into in terms of our competency arena. I wonder how long the fifth industrial revolution will last, and will it go back into taking humans back into employment after that, or will it go even further into AI? So I'm going to address that shortly. Actually, I got a definition of the fifth industrial revolution, but I did just want to point out these amazing opportunities. And we're currently quite used to using things like Enneagram assessments, psychometric MBTI, and so on and so forth. But the way I think we're going to see a future where we will be using artificial intelligence and applied neuroscience as an adjunct to the coaching that we do. And it's not a great leap for me from personality and behavioral assessments to the introduction of technology like neuroscience. And my question now is there a great opportunity for some enterprising person to make this kind of technology more accessible and to democratize this kind of technology? So we're starting to really leak into the industrial revolution here. And let's look at a hypothetical example around the industrial revolution, and it's based on a prediction of the use of artificial intelligence by a chap called Alan Cousins, where he painted a scenario in a sports type environment. I've taken his scenario and I've changed it into a business or team coaching environment to paint a picture. So you're a coach, you're working with a team in business, and in the morning you wake up to a beautifully collated report on the members of the team, giving you information like Mary's sleep quality was really poor the last couple of nights, And there is a direct correlation between her sleep quality and her ability to make good business decisions. Perhaps you could encourage her to set aside important decisions for another day or another time when she's feeling more fresher. And certainly one of the things you need to work with her on as her coach is her sleeping patterns and her sleep hygiene. And perhaps when she's having one of these days where she's had poor quality sleep, you can encourage her to be more collaborative and bring other people in to help her with making the kinds of decisions that she needs to make. The other example is Dave has been exhibiting, in the report that you get, Dave has been exhibiting high levels of stress. If we have a look at his heart rate variability, and perhaps as his coach, you could work with him really heavily at the moment on mindfulness practices and getting him to take regular breaks from his desk, and not to kind of crunch, just sit crunching through what he has on his plate all the time. Now, I know that the examples that I'm giving you, I'm sure that your response is, oh my God, that's a huge amount of intrusion into people's private lives. But I just want to put this in front of you as a possibility. I mean, my smartwatch, for example, can measure my stress levels. It can measure my oxygenation levels. Okay, so these are all indicators of how I am at any point responding to or adapting to my environment and what is on my plate. And it's useful information if I was prepared to share this out of my own choice with a coach that I was working with. If I was tracking my stress levels, my oxygen levels, my heart rate variability, and tracking what I was doing at the same time, imagine what kind of a coaching conversation that could give rise to. I see Sharon is online and so thrilled to have you here. And your question is, can artificial intelligence replace self as an instrument? What are my thoughts? I think we are still too young in the world of artificial intelligence to replace ourselves as human beings. I don't know whether you were online earlier, Sharon, but I was chatting about an artificial intelligence chatbot that Dr. Nikki Terblanche has created. He's based at Stellenbosch Business School. I'm sure you know him. And so it's still been in the validation phase. But what they've found is that they split people into two groups, and one group of people who are being coached use this artificial intelligence robot or this AI coaching bot called Coach Vicky. And the other group were being coached, but they didn't use Coach Vicky. Sorry, excuse me. And the people who used Coach Vicky showed an 80% increase in their goal achievement. Just give me 1 sec. I have got some lovely honey-laden rooibos tea. And then I'm going to quickly sip on. I'm getting over a cold, for those of you who weren't on earlier. So that's why my voice is also a little bit husky. So my opinion right now is that artificial intelligence is not going to replace us in the immediate future. I also think that the more virtual we go, the more there's going to be a reciprocal desire for interpersonal human contact. And I think as human beings, most of us are so heavily wired for interpersonal contact that I don't think we will ever be completely replaced. I think these will all become tools, artificial intelligence will all become tools that will increase what we can offer, our skill set, and the value that we can offer our clients. And I think that we need to be smart and clever about about acknowledging the value of these tools and seeing where we can fit them in so that we remain on the cutting edge of the coaching profession. It's stuff like this that we need to highlight and stick on our horizon and kind of just, have a greater awareness about. But no, right now, I don't see us being replaced and being done out of the joy of coaching. But what big data, going back to data collection and that example that I gave of, imagine getting that report on the team that you're coaching and the various things that could be impacting their performance. Big data actually allows a more humanistic approach to be introduced, although it may take a lot of convincing for our clients. But it really allows us to get that much closer to our clients and to significantly tailor-make the way that we are working with them, to deeply personalize the way that we work with them. I think it is going to take some mental adjustment. It will take some time, but it's there. Okay, and it's coming. And I'm so excited about these kinds of possibilities, about using virtual reality for simulations, business simulations, about using, data to give us greater insights into our clients' worlds, what they're experiencing, and more particularly what their needs are. But I want to flag that this is going to need a whole different school and level of ethics developed in the coaching relationship. And maybe there's somebody clever out there who's already starting to look at what the impact of artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and just technology in general is going to have in the coaching world, and how we as coaches need to deal with this. Neuromining is also another way of using neuroscience and behavioral psychology to more deeply analyze, understand, and influence our clients' behavior, giving us a deeper insight and understanding of our clients. And going back to wearable technology, they're saying that 10% of the world's population is now wearing accessories or apparel that are in some way connected to the internet. Sharon, you were responding to what I was saying about some clever person needs to actually start kind of broadening and deepening our ethical component to be able to take into account. So the ICF, International Coach Federation, and the EMCC, which is the European Mentoring and Coaching Council, I think I've got it correct, are already onto it. So, people, it's here. Technology's here. There's no getting away from it. And the best we can do is embrace it rather than run from it. We need to ourselves be agile enough to bringing it, to be able to bring technology in as useful tools in our coaching, in the way that we work with our clients. I can see Sally's just joined us. It's lovely to see you. I haven't seen you for a while, Sally. So again, let's look at the fifth industrial revolution, and I've taken a definition again off the internet. The Industrial Revolution will see much more advanced collaborative into their interactions between humans, machines, processes, and systems for maximum performance optimization. So I think that's answering a question that was asked earlier about the level of human. I think, Arena, you were asking about, with the fourth industrial revolution, are we going to have a turn where humans are going to come back into the fold? And here we are seeing already that definitions of the fifth industrial revolution are definitely including humans into the fold. Hi Riaz, thanks for joining us. Lovely to see you online. We've got a new socio-economic era upon us. The World Economic Forum was talking about how, in contrast to, and again I'm quoting from the World Economic Forum, in contrast to trends in the fourth revolution towards dehumanization, technology and innovation-based practices are being bent back towards the service of humanity by the champions of the fifth industrial revolution. And in the fifth industrial revolution, humans and machines will dance together, metaphorically. Isn't that a lovely picture? So there's definitely, again, this growing recognition of the need for human touch, for humanity. And the contradiction of all of us working remotely like we are, as well as with the greater advances in technology allowing us to work with less and less interpersonal interaction. But on the flip side, there's this surge, this undercurrent, where we are recognizing, yearning for, and wanting an increase in interpersonal communication, person-to-person interaction, and the personal touch. And if we talk about the hybrid workplaces that I'm sure a lot of you are dealing with at the moment when you're working with clients, how to manage and cope with the hybrid workplace, those bring their own problems of ineffectual interpersonal communication. It highlights personality conflicts. It brings trust, in relationships into the spotlight. How do we create, maintain, and retain those high levels of trust that we can have in the office, where you can see the tone or the context of how somebody is interacting with you, because you can see their facial expressions when you're speaking to them. You can see their body language. There's so much that we are losing in this virtual world, and that I think, again, that is creating more and more of a need for us getting closer and closer together again as humans. And with hybrid workplaces, you see more dysfunctional personalities kind of leaking out. You see more dysfunction in teams, and a whole new set of dynamics that leaders, managers, employees, and even us as coaches have to deal with. With teams being split, you've got greater misunderstanding, trust issues increase exponentially. And I can remember some time ago, actually, the leader of an organization saying to me, and this is before virtual workplaces were the real thing, but this person, a leader in this organization, saying to me that one of the biggest lessons she had to learn as a leader was that email had no tone. So in other words, literally, to take what were emails that were being sent to her at face value and strip out what she might overlay onto the wording or the way things were worded, and giving them tone when the other person wasn't there to actually contextualize what was being said, and giving all those other different signals. There's a lovely quote by George Bernard Shaw that's where he said, the biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it has taken place. And how often do we actually find that? I think it's one of the biggest things that we work with. So I want to move on to very serious things. So many of us have attended funerals online, sitting alone in our homes or offices, and we've been denied the companionship in grief that occasions like funerals normally allow us. And how, again, are we working with this both for ourselves and with our clients? How are we ensuring that there are greater levels of self-care, happening with our clients, and we're not just cutting ourselves off with immersing ourselves in work? And I think that there's an awakening consciousness in the world that coaches and clients will be having more and more conversations about mortality, our codes of ethics, our values, and how they play out in our general life, how to create lives that are filled more with meaning and purpose. And we have a huge responsibility as coaches, again, to expand our skill set into dealing with things like grief, PTSD, another big thing that's starting to emerge on the horizon, burnout, creating, you hear people talking about, developing resilience. These are things that as coaches, we just have to be able to deal with. We just have to know that these are going to come up in our coaching conversations. Doesn't matter who we're dealing with or at what level. It's a global shared experience that we're all going through, and that means that we as coaches need to take as much care of ourselves and our own kind of mental and psychological well-being And here I want to highlight again, now more than ever, the need for coach supervision to really take care of ourselves, to really nurture ourselves and put those supportive networks or supportive things in place for us, those resources. And it goes to say that with the rise of artificial intelligence and robotics and so on, there is going to be a huge negative impact on people who are on the margins of society. And again, it's going to impact our lives as a whole. The rise in technology, people, kind of being edged out of the workplace by higher levels of automation and those kinds of things. And if we're dealing with leaders in government and business, these are, again, topics that I'm sure are going to be coming up in conversations. Their delicate balancing act between trying to be, run more effective businesses, organizations, lead in government, and having to sacrifice people at the same time because of developments in modern technology. Sharon, yes, how we are is how we coach. You are so very right. How we are feeling at the moment definitely is how we are showing up in the coaching space and environment. So it's so necessary that we take care of ourselves. One of the big hot topics at the moment is diversity, inclusivity, and equality. I'm sure many of you are looking at these, dealing with these, or are having conversations, around DEI with some of your clients. And what's happening now is with the Internet of Things, robotics, artificial intelligence replacing people in the workplace, it's creating greater diversity. It's inclusivity is, it's becoming more and more exclusive, and things are becoming more and more unequal. So while on the one hand, our corporate and business clients are trying to focus on diversity, equality, and inclusivity, the way that the world is right now is making it more and more difficult for them to create, environments that embrace diversity, inclusivity, and equality. And we need to get our minds around these challenges that our clients are facing and how we help them get to innovative and creative solutions where they can create diverse, equal, and inclusive environments in the workplace. And one of the other trends is, and this is from Forbes, a prediction that with the greater remote working environments, and I know I'm hopping all over the place, but with greater and greater remote working environments, virtual working environments, Forbes is predicting that there's going to be an increase in hiring contractors and a reduction in permanent employees. So again, increasing pressure on leaders and managers to continue fostering strong team bonds, to create strong team and corporate cultures. And leaders now are going to be making increasingly complex decisions, sometimes based on things that are way out of their area of direct knowledge, expertise, or comfort. We've spoken so much about the fourth and fifth industrial revolution, automation, artificial intelligence, virtual reality. How are leaders, who've perhaps not grown up with all of these things and aren't working with them intimately on a day-to-day basis, how are they going to start, be making quality decisions on stuff that they're not familiar with, that they're not knowledgeable about, and they're not comfortable with. And how do we support them? What do we need to add to our coaching knowledge, skills, and competencies to really partner our clients in this dance? Arena, yes, you spoke about the Great Resignation. Very topical. It's just coming out everywhere, and I have made a note to speak about that. So I have mentioned repeatedly about the trend towards greater and greater personalization. So with a growing lack of interpersonal contact and communication, I see that we are going to see a trend towards what I call militant personalization and identity politics. So let me give you an example of what I mean. I think I was reading an article about how more and more people are using online dating apps to meet partners as a result of COVID, more and more than were before. And what you've actually seen with some of the apps is that they have kind of flipped to make sure that they are not necessarily politically correct, but more inclusive, and they are including categories like LGBTIQ+, non-binary, non-monogamous, pansexual. I'd never heard of that term until I read this article, and many more other descriptors, to help people describe themselves, to hyper-personalize themselves. When I was doing the search on LinkedIn to get the figures on the growth in the coaching industry, I happened to see one person who has added to her description, she's added her pronouns, she, her, she's added her pronouns. So we are using more and more ways of differentiating ourselves, of personalizing ourselves, of telling the world or signaling to the world, hey, I'm an individual, I'm a human, and don't forget that, whatever you do. I'm not just somebody stuck behind a machine. I'm not an inanimate voice behind an email. I'm an individual, I'm a human, and don't forget my inner humanity. Arena, your comment is, but businesses need to learn to include benefits for contractors too. That's a very good point. So that's going back to the Forbes prediction that more and more contractors are going to be taken on and employed. And definitely that's something that businesses are going to need to kind of work on, and to attract the right caliber of people. So thank you for that point. Thanks for sharing that. As coaches, coaching virtually, and we've seen the exponential growth in virtual coaching over the last year or so, we have also had to become a lot more experienced in recognizing and identifying the small signals that before we might not have picked up on, or we might not have been quite as consciously looking for. So things like, what are the words behind the words? What is not being said? What is like the meta language? What is the body language that we are able to see? What is that telling us? Things like micro expressions in the virtual coaching environment, being able to pick up and identify these micro expressions so that we can still have that level of subtlety with our coaching clients that we would have if we were face to face. And also, we're in an age where sometimes if we are meeting with clients face to face, we're wearing masks. So really, our eyes are truly becoming the windows to our souls. They're truly becoming clues to how we are feeling about or responding to something. Body language, when it comes to masks, so much more important as part of our kind of interpretive tools. And I don't know about you, but I sometimes actually struggle to understand like what another person is saying to me from behind their mask. And I have come to realize now how much I have relied on lip reading to actually hear what's being said. Sharon, you've got to leave. Thank you for being here. This will remain up on the group, so if you do want to come back at a later stage and catch up on the rest of the video, it will be there in perpetuity. I'm also going to be creating an article out of this that you can read on my blog, so it is going to become it will be widely available. And don't kind of stress about not scribbling everything down as I'm talking, because I know I'm talking 10 to the dozen. Going back to wearing masks, on a frivolous note, I actually met somebody for coffee earlier today, and when we took our masks off, she said, the nice thing about masks is we don't have to worry about putting lipstick on anymore. And I can remember going to see a client, and they're very strict about COVID protocols, so we wear masks. And I remember on the drive thinking, oh, flip, I haven't put lipstick on. Flip, and stressing about it, and then actually laughing at myself and realizing, but yeah, he's not going to see because I'm going to be wearing a mask. And it does away with that proverbial stress of, after having had a meal, have I got spinach stuck in my teeth that everybody can see and nobody's telling me about? But that's, on a frivolous note. But I think we really are navigating a new era of identity politics, aggressive identity politics, and aggressive individualism. And we need to take this into account as coaches. I don't think we need to tie ourselves up in knots about always being politically correct and using the political terminology. I think there's, if our intent and intention is good, pure, and right, then, if we do get things wrong, I would hope that we'll be in a position to be able to discuss that with our clients. But I don't, I don't think we need to put too much pressure on ourselves to be 100% politically correct, as long as we can be seen to be making a genuine, well-intentioned effort. And I think also nowadays, trying to be politically correct is actually like trying to hit a moving target. And we need to focus on our sensibility, our sensitivity, and our ability to deal with identity, personal identity, without judgment. And again, being non-judgmental is a quintessential quality of a great coach. So I think we're going to see an enormous growth in interesting and expressive personal identity statements. I think face furniture like glasses are going to become more expressive. I think women possibly are going to maybe have more fun and be more adventurous with makeup. Sorry, excuse me. I think tattoos, earrings, neckties, necklines, and even face masks are going to become statements. Hairstyles and hair color, other ways that we can make statements about our individuality. And, digital online coaching has become the mainstay of how we are working with our clients and how coaching takes place. It's just grown so hugely because of external circumstances. The interesting thing is that there have now been a couple of surveys or pieces of research that show that virtual coaching is actually as effective as in-person coaching. So I find it really, really encouraging that what is important is FaceTime. So what is most important is for you and your client, if you're working virtually, to have your cameras on so that you can see each other. And that's the underlying quintessential thing that needs rule that needs to be stuck to when it comes to virtual coaching. arena. You've also got to go. Thanks for this pleasure. I've still got a little bit more to go. Trends is always like my bumper live, so I hope you'll come back later and catch up where you left off. But thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. So what makes a skilled virtual coach? There are actually three things. The first is FaceTime, so in other words, keeping the video on, being able to see each other. The second is having a meaningful relationship with your clients, so being able to establish meaningful relationships. And I know so many of my clients, people who do my 12-week accelerator, some of them, we have been together for 12 weeks. And I've met a couple of them afterwards who've been South Africans. We've met face to face, and the relationship has been exactly the same when we've seen each other face to face as how it's been in the 12 weeks that we've been working with each other virtually. So you can establish very good quality relationships working in the online space. And the third component is your ability as a coach to demonstrate empathy, emotion, and honesty. So there's this lovely triangle of trust, bond, and relationship when it comes to being a skilled virtual coach. And this is what we need to be able to learn how to create. I think actually that just as we would create the trust, the bond, and the relationship with our clients if we were seeing them face to face, I think we need to kind of get over this self-imposed barrier of the fact that we're working virtually, that we're not sitting in a face-to-face environment. That's really in our heads. And if we can put that to one side, all those other dynamics are still there. Everything that makes coaching powerful is still available, and we're still bringing it to the coaching conversation. So it's just that one small thing that we need to be able to move beyond and get over ourselves. So yeah, I think that's our big challenge. So again, also with more and more digital online coaching taking place, measurement and reporting becomes even more essential. So doing 360 or 180 assessments, getting coaches to do self-reports, progress reports, creating action plans, goal completion, doing regular check-ins with your virtual client to revisit the objectives that were set at the beginning of the coaching intervention, and kind of expanding our coaching repertoire by including some of the tools that I spoke about earlier to support our clients in their journey with us. We can also, as coaches, we can supplement, and I think this is amazing. I mean, this is so nice and flexible. We can supplement the work that we are doing one-on-one with our clients in the virtual environment, or if we're meeting them face-to-face. We can supplement that with additional resources when we are not there. So kind of maintain a constant level of presence and visibility with our clients by creating videos for them and sharing them with them, by creating resources, quizzes, questionnaires, templates, guides that we can send to them, sharing articles, or there are all sorts of additional resources that we can share with our clients, again, to deeply personalize and tailor-make the coaching experience for them. And I think also there's a greater and greater need for supplementary support if we are working online, for supplementary support between coaching sessions. And here I want to bring in accessibility, another trend, another huge trend. There's been a marked rise in job descriptions recently, where job descriptions have included the requirement of accessibility, higher levels of accessibility. Sharon, you've got to go as well. Hope you'll catch up later. So, but as coaches, we also need to understand that we perhaps need to offer greater accessibility to our clients, by adding in additional touch points between coaching sessions, so micro learning sessions or gamification. We can include pre-work for our clients, so things like journaling exercises, assessments, progress checks, research, all things that can prime our clients for the next session with us. And we can also consider offering our clients things like access to us on WhatsApp, Voxer, or Telegram, in between coaching sessions. So that added level of accessibility, huge added value, and again, something that will set us apart from our competitors, okay? Because there are coaches who kind of say, well, that's our coaching session, and when the coaching session's over, we'll see the client the next week. And in between, I know the client's got plenty to work on. But I think, again, we've moved on, and we've moved to a point where we need to kind of have a presence in between those coaching sessions. We have to retain our top of mind awareness, and we also, it's easy for our clients to get distracted in this increasingly busy world. So, having ongoing touch points and supplementary resources helps to keep our clients focused and on track. We know, again, the majority of coaches still don't make their income from coaching alone. And many coaches have got consulting, facilitation, training, and workshops, as part of their mix. You would have heard me saying this many times, there's a greater and greater trend towards coaches creating signature online programs and creating kind of set short coaching interventions with stated outcomes. And I spoke earlier, demonstrated earlier, how much easier it is to make the decision to work with someone or to choose to work with someone when they are giving you, like, this is the process, these are the outcomes, these are the results that you will create if we stick to this process. Obviously still having a little bit of flexibility within that. So you're seeing more and more group coaching programs on the rise, and programs or products that are supported by coaching. I can see someone has just joined us. Is that Christian? Wonder if it is wonderful to see you. Haven't seen you for ages. Just drop a hello in the comments so that I can see who you are. But think of creating signature programs or processes as creating specific development pathways or offerings with outcomes that are created around certain common problems or challenges that your clients are experiencing to help them achieve a particular goal or an outcome that you support with traditional pure coaching. So there's a point where I was asking myself the question, is coaching dead? Is coaching dying? No, I don't think so. But I think what is happening is that there is an ongoing conflation of coaching, mentoring, training, teaching, and facilitation. We know one of the challenges when it comes to marketing coaching and marketing our coaching practices is that there's no one real set definition or agreed definition of coaches, of what coaching is. And some research was done at Gibbs in 2020 by Dr. Natalie Cunningham, where it was people who are coaches as well as coaching clients. And one of the outcomes of the research was that, again, there are so many different ideas of what coaching is that there's just this complete lack of consensus, and it makes it so difficult for us to market this thing that is actually essentially an intangible. Rose, you've joined us. Thank you. It is so nice to see you. You're an upcoming coach, and this session is very helpful. Yay! I hope it's giving you lots of practical tips and ideas of what to do, what to aim for, and like what not to do. So, now we've got, we've spoken about the fourth industrial revolution. We've spoken about the rise in automation. There are other benefits for us as coaches, not only bringing automation tools into our coaching sessions with our clients, or using automation tools to help support the work that we're doing with clients, but for ourselves as well, to take some of the pressure off us. So in an onboarding process, for example, have greater automation, so that once you've seen a client, signed up a new client, that there's a beautiful onboarding process, that with a whole series of perhaps emails and resources and documents that you send to them, to get them kind of coaching fit and coaching ready, to start getting them into the right frame of mind, to really have effective coaching sessions. So consider how you can introduce more and more automation into how you're working with your clients, how you are able to assess your client's coach readiness and even suitability as a match. So I've got a questionnaire when people want to work with me. I have a questionnaire that I send them almost to so that they start to pre-qualify themselves. But the important thing is that my clients are already thinking deeply about what their challenges are, and they're not coming to me saying, I need help with my marketing. They've already, because they've gone through the questionnaire, they've already started tearing apart, like, what does help with my marketing mean? Where in the broadest field of marketing do I really need help, and where do I need to focus? What are my biggest challenges? What are my biggest priorities? And again, I think it's useful for you to consider doing this, pre-qualifying your own clients and getting them thinking more carefully about what they want help with, starting to break it down a little bit more, because that'll give you a huge amount more structure to how you create the objectives for your coaching intervention. Of course, now that there's so much coaching happening online, we are coaching across borders. We are coaching globally. It's completely opened the world up for us. And with that, there's a growing need for multilingual coaches and coaches with cultural competence. So coaches who have an understanding of different cultures and what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. Again, something else just to flag on our horizon if we are keen on taking the global route. So I do think coaching is going to become more democratized. I do think it's going to become more widely available with a combination of artificial intelligence and virtual coaching. What I do think as well is that virtual coaching, while it increases accessibility, it makes ourselves and our clients a lot more time efficient, and it also gives us a high degree of flexibility. I think it is going to put pressure on our fees. We are seeing pressure on fees already, and I spoke earlier in the session about the just enormous growth in the coaching industry, like between 300 to 600% growth in the coaching industry. That again is going to start putting pressure on coaching fees and putting pressure on coaches to really be able to stand out from everybody else. So last year already we were predicting falling coaching fees. Again, I think that fees are going to come under scrutiny, and that we are going to need to be able to justify the fees that we're charging. So I want you to take that important point and make sure that you are in a position to be able to justify what you're charging, what people are getting for it, and why you're charging what you're charging as a coaching fee. We're going to see greater and greater trends where we'll be dealing with high levels of stress, anxiety, overwhelm, burnout, fatigue, lack of resilience. And so as coaches, we're going to have to increase our coaching repertoire to be able to deal with these issues. I know one of somebody that I work with is a psychiatrist, and she has said that the growth in patients coming to see her who are suffering from depression and burnout, she can't describe how how this has increased. And even my own doctor, I was chatting with her, and she said exactly the same. So we more and more, the better the coach, and I'm putting my head on the line here because I am making a statement and I am making a strong opinion. The better the coach, the higher your level of psychological literacy is going to be. So what do I mean by this? It means that you need to have at least a working knowledge of a wide range of the psychological models that underpin and inform coaching. You also need to be in a position to identify if your client is actually suffering from an underlying condition that would make them unsuitable at that point for coaching. And we know that so many, all of the coaching bodies in their codes of ethics, they say that if we identify an underlying medical or psychological condition, we are duty bound, ethically bound to refer that person to a suitable professional. So high levels of psychological literacy. We need to be able to support our clients when they're stressed about keeping their jobs, stressed about managing changing lifestyles, stressed about managing change in their jobs. Some of our clients have experienced dramatic cuts in their income. They've had to shift their lifestyles and how they live. So many people that we work with are deep in grief over the loss of family members, friends, even our freedom and familiarity. Things like there are some of us who love interpersonal contact, and that's become risky behavior now. Giving somebody a hug, it's become risky behavior, and we could be starving our own needs and psychology or psychological needs because of the world that we're currently living in. So be very mindful of, and I'm sure you are very mindful and hyper aware of the different world that everybody is living in at the moment. So with job losses, with people's income possibly, reducing, how are we going to deal with the possibility of a shrinking coaching client base, and with possibly with greater pressure on how we justify the fees that we are charging, and this enormously explosive competitive environment? We ourselves are dealing with huge levels of fear, of uncertainty. We've got grief happening in our own lives. Ourselves, we may be dealing with PTSD. So I want to encourage you to use coach supervision as a supportive base to make sure that you have a sound foundation in which to operate from, to help you to deal with your fears, to deal with the pressures, to help you create solutions, and to see to remain in a space of possibility thinking and possibility living, rather than shutting down. We spoke earlier about the Great Resignation, how hordes of people are resigning from their jobs without having new jobs to go to, and how this perhaps is one of the biggest contributors to the growth in the coaching industry. But it's having the other effect of putting more emphasis and scrutiny on the coaching, on the training that we as coaches have already done. This is an opportunity now for us to use our training, our experience, our hours to differentiate ourselves from competitors coming into the market. However, there was a very interesting comment by Forbes magazine, where they spoke about what they see as a growth in co-opetition, which is a growth in competitors cooperating. So I've always spoken really passionately about finding people who you can bring in as part of your broader coaching network and team and resources, even if they are, if push comes to shove, even if they are a direct competitor, even if they are also a coach. Have an abundance mindset. There are plenty of clients out there. There is a lot of work out there, and we can work together. Don't isolate yourself and become an island. Be open to opportunities to work with other people who may be your competitors, but to do so strategically. So look at people and say, what is it that this person does? How is this person trained? Or what is the area that they are really, really great in, where if I get that kind of a client, perhaps we could work together. Perhaps we could create some kind of collaboration. And I think collaboration needs to become an important trend and byword that you keep top of mind. Now, I know I've gone on for almost an hour and a half. I just want to assure you that I'm almost finished. My final, and I've got to get on to marketing your coaching practice. There's no ways that you're ever going to get away from marketing. And you're going to have to become consistent creators of content in order to generate business. So here are a few statistics. Quality content on your website drives traffic to your website it increases traffic to your website by up to 2,000%. Does that give you a little bit of a nudge or a little bit of encouragement to to deal with that whole content creation monster? Video drives 50% more organic traffic to websites than static content. So, and we're seeing the different algorithms are shifting all the time to prioritize video material. It's one of the reasons why I do these videos, and I use them as the basis for then creating articles, and I share the video on my website. I've got a YouTube channel. It's here in the group for you guys, especially for you guys. So video is definitely the way to go when it comes to marketing. And there are lots of ways that you can skin that cat if you find video really, really intimidating. And if you want to have a chat with me about that, I'm happy to do so and give you a couple of tips on how to ease your way into it. I spoke about how so many people are talking about resilience. And as coaches, we also need to be resilient. We need to be able to keep calm and carry on, to get up and to persevere. We need to build our own resilience muscle so that we don't lose heart right now with everything that is happening in the world around us. And Rose, you may find this interesting as an upcoming coach. In my opinion, it takes, this is from my personal observations over the years, and I've been coaching since 2002. In my opinion, it takes between 18 months and 3 years to create a successful coaching practice, but that is going all out on your marketing. And when I say all out, that is being disciplined and putting in effort into your marketing on a daily basis, having high levels of visibility. So 18 months to 3 years, but your focus has to be on marketing. And I can remember reading a stat somewhere that successful entrepreneurs need to allocate something like 75% of their time to marketing their businesses. So I'm sure you're sitting there and thinking, well, when am I actually going to do my coaching? When am I actually going to do what I'm in business to do? Think of that. Because, so I'm not saying you spend that amount of time on your marketing. You do need to market on a daily basis. You do need to allocate some time on a daily basis. But remember that the time that you're spending on marketing, while it will bring you in clients, it's that much less time that you can sell. So you need to factor that into how you are setting your coaching fees. Okay? So I hope that's helpful also as a new coach. So you really need to take that into account when you are setting your hourly rates. And there was some other informal research recently about how many weeks entrepreneurs were how many hours a week entrepreneurs were spending on marketing their businesses. And most of the participants came back and said that they were spending less than 5 hours a week on marketing their business. So that's an hour, like less than an hour a day. And when the researchers looked at entrepreneurs who were being successful, they were spending at least 10 hours per week or 2 hours a day on marketing their businesses. So I want to give that to you as a ballpark, as something to kind of keep in the back of your mind, that you are going to need to be prepared to allocate a day a week or between 1 and 2 hours a day minimum to marketing and building your coaching practice. And it's becoming more and more important as the coaching industry explodes. And I refer you back to the figures and stats that I gave you right at the beginning of this video. So I hope that this has been jam-packed with interesting and useful information. I am really keen to know what you're taking out of this and what you're going to implement, what you're going to put on your horizon, where you're going to shift your focus to, what you're going to add to what you're focusing on. Please either send me a direct message or pop something into the group, but please let me know what has stood out for you, what has been most useful, what you're going to implement, and maybe what the biggest shocks or wake-up calls were for you. I want to thank those of you who stayed with me. I know it's been an hour and a half. I value you and I value your time, and I hope to see you in future videos. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time. Take care and keep well and be successful. Ciao.